is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
Chapter 16.
Chapter 16.
Shanna'har.
Shanna'har.
The symbol being the blacksmith puzzle. Because Perrin and his puzzles.
Right. It's the anniversary, right? This is Shanna'har means not necessarily the anniversary of your wedding, because everybody celebrates it at the same time in the same time of year.
But it also is a celebration of your marriage.
Yes.
More of the marriage than of the wedding, if that makes sense.
Oh, of course. Yes.
But yeah, it's the annual celebration of the fact that you're alive and married, and it's great. And I mean, it makes sense in a world where, like, we've had, I don't remember if it's earlier in the series. We have Elayne talking about how dates are pretty imprecise for daily usage. Like, you actually have to, like, really sit down and think about it to get down to the precise date. Like, people know the calendar exists, but people don't use the day of the year as, like, a guiding light for their, like, regular lives. It's more of a vibe. It's a seasonal, they're agrarian. They have a very agrarian sense of time. And they have a calendar if they need it. So it makes sense that, broadly speaking, this certain part of the year is when we all celebrate another year coming around. Like, yeah, that makes sense.
And this is kind of like Mother's Day, except for marriage, where it's like you only celebrate it if you're married, but everybody celebrates it on the same day of the year.
Yeah, totally.
Whereas, Mother's Day, you only celebrate it if you're a mother, right?
Right.
I mean, we all celebrate it, but because we all have mothers. Hopefully.
Yes. Well, at some point, we all came from someone.
I heard they just did a thing where they took a skin cell of DNA and was able to recreate an embryo with skin cells as opposed to using actual. So, possibility that someone could grow up without having a mother.
We will cross that bridge when we come to it. For now, I don't really have a read-in. This is a very
sure
what it is on the tin. This literally is just Shanna'har, the chapter. Like, Faile does some administrative stuff, and then she has a lovely picnic with Perrin where they have a very important, deep conversation. Like, there's not much of, like, a read into that, because we just cut to Faile, like, having a nice day before the plant picnic.
Right.
And by nice day, I mean doing admin.
And I think there's a line that Perrin was trying to maneuver for a second, more formal parley while the White Cloaks insisted on a battle. So they've been exchanging letters, right? I think that's the piece of what's been going on between the two armies and why they're not fighting it out right now. And why we have this time to do this is sort of the calm before the storm of the battle between Perrin and the White Cloaks, where they're writing each other fancy letters instead of going to war, apparently.
Yeah, well, because Galad won't engage in the war he wants, in the battle that he wants, until they've agreed on a time and place, right? There is a negotiation to going into battle the way that he wants to do it. And Perrin keeps saying, I want to parley. So they're in this, like, really hilarious impasse where Perrin can just delay more or less indefinitely on administrative reasons because Galad won't just attack them. He wants to wait for, like, a clerk to manage an agreement before they attack. It's very weird.
And then there's some recap, right? There's some people who have been kidnapped. Perrin was thinking about stealing them, but that doesn't make sense because there's too many.
It's not book 4 anymore.
Yeah, it's not book 4 anymore. Thinks about Elayne, how I'm going to have to deal with her, which that we see that happen, not yet, but later on in this book where they make a deal.
And then she thinks about her origin story, basically, kind of reflecting on what we know of her backstory that we've inferred, but looking at it as, like, a much more mature person, right? We don't get just more details about her life than we've ever heard before. We get her going, I was a bit of a spoiled brat that made no sense and really have grown up a lot since book 4. It really isn't book 4 anymore.
Right. And it kind of feels like Sanderson also, like, again, because he has to tell you everything, right? We know all this. There's nothing here that we don't know from the rest of the book, but he's writing it all down in one place as a summary from the notes so that you have it.
I like the part where she reflects on that time she made Perrin travel alone through the ways and she doesn't even remember what he had done to set her off. I like that piece of reflection. That felt necessary to show her growth.
Yes, I like the reflection. I don't necessarily like the summary of everything she's ever done.
Yeah, it's, again, Sanderson. It's so Sanderson. And he describes the whole concept of camp followers and how they're setting up a village around the thing because we've seen that before with the Aes Sedai camp, so we have to reiterate it here.
And then we get the quartermaster.
The quartermaster scene is pretty fun. I kind of like this is the Sanderson showing, not telling that I enjoy, where he actually writes this extremely granular, high fidelity day in the life moment that is just so tactile and visceral. And I actually enjoy it as like it's not all just hand waving. He's not yada yadaing how camps work, you know?
It reminds me of when he wrote, was it Suwon who went around and like checked one thing?
Yeah, that too. Like, totally.
You know, you don't have to check everything every day, but you do want to check one thing every day and just sort of never let people know what you're checking on, because it helps with the corruption and it keeps people honest and it makes sure that like they never know when you're going to come, and double check that they're not, getting paid to give people supplies sooner, especially the nobles.
Right. Yeah, it totally reminded me of that, which felt like an awesome callback because that lesson has also been passed on to Egwene. And yeah, so this part was very Sanderson and also very satisfying.
And this was basically, this Bevan is cooking the books. She's not really sure how because he's very good at it. But basically she figured out that he's supplying one group too early and like basically controlling who gets the supplies when.
Yeah, he's giving people preferential treatment based on their wealth and status. And that's not the socialism that the Two Rivers is known for. So, Faile has to keep it to a dull roar. But then she has, this whole thing of like, well, Bavin is very good at his job. He's doing this without causing much of an issue or a ripple. Like, I can't see how he's managing it. He's very, very good at managing resources. So I don't want to get rid of him. I just want him to understand how fettered his corruption needs to be.
Right. Yeah. He's like, you're pushing the bounds of your corruption. Rein it in just a little bit. Just a little bit.
I'm letting you know where the line is. I will not notice anything behind that line. But if you cross the line, it's going to be a problem. And Bavin's like, yes, ma'am. Right. He wants his job. He wants to balance all of that. And we never hear from him again because he's just a nice day in the life piece of furniture rather than some sort of character being set up for something later. He is, in fact, a sexy lamp.
On the way out, she sees some scallions have gone bad that she noticed on her way in. Right. So there's like the Dark One is rotting food right in front of them. Even Perrin's presence, which was enough to stop it from happening as much, is not stopping it completely anymore.
And we get the note here that it's been happening far longer out in the countryside. And in Perrin's camp, this is sort of a new development that this is happening more regularly. It's still worth remarking on in a way that it isn't to the people who are, flocking to his army saying, please, if you feed me non-rotten food, I will be so happy. We're starting to see the rots following them.
Timeline-wise, this is Darth Rand timeline, right? Perrin, so this is why foods rot.
Yeah.
Because this is before Veins of Gold in Perrin's timeline. God, these timelines are so fucked.
I like tracking the food rot as part of the arc, though. I think that's helpful.
Yeah, but that is helpful. So that's partially how you can tell that Rand hasn't had his little Veins of Gold moment, is like, because Perrin's protection kind of comes from the Dragon Reborn and he's been corrupted, like all of a sudden we're seeing more of that corruption in Perrin's camp.
Yeah, totally. Plus, the more people that get gathered under Perrin's banner, the more effective it is for the Dark One to cause harm to them, right? You're putting more and more of your eggs in one basket. That's the double-edged sword of Perrin's popularity.
Mm-hmm. And then I like this last line. Faile's talking about how she thought she would feel trapped by this life of managing a house, right? And she said, but what Deidre, her mother, hadn't mentioned was how fulfilling it would be. Perrin made the difference. It was no trap at all to be caught with him. And as someone who's recently married, I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling romantic. And I'm like, yeah, you find the right person, and it doesn't feel like a trap.
Yeah. Exactly. Because, that was kind of the through line. We didn't really talk about it, but that was the through line of Faile's reflection on her life, was that it had all felt so predictable that it felt like it was going to be a trap. And then, the reality is it's not a trap. And I, as someone who's been married for a lot of years, very close to 20 years, so sort of teen years.
I'm like, I'm a newlywed. You are the, yeah.
Yeah, as someone who's been doing that for a very long time, like, it should not be a burden to have someone that you are sharing your life administrative stuff with. It should be your parts add up to a greater whole that make it easier to live life. Like, it should not be a burden to have to think about another person's needs because they're also thinking about your needs, and it works out. And like, yes, we don't have an army camp. Neither of us are in military general with camp followers situations, but like, we both have homes, you know, we still stuff to manage. And it's, yeah, teamwork does in fact make the dream work.
And if you think managing life in the modern economy doesn't feel like fucking war,
well, and then there's that.
Tell you what. And for me, I'm like, I didn't get married till I was in my 40s, and I don't have a first wife. I don't have a first marriage. I don't have a first set of kids. Like, I knew every relationship I was in before never was not right. You know, like they were hard.
Yeah.
And I was better off single. And I stayed, you know, that's one of the things. I would stay single for years in between my relationships because I'd be looking for someone who I thought was the right person. I wasn't just dating casually. And it took me forever to find the right person. But now am I absolutely sure that I found the right person? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for me, that was like, I knew I was going to marry Brandon very early on. Extremely early on.
And you just found that person right away.
So early, because it was so easy.
Yeah.
It was just so. He is my first marriage, obviously, because math. But
this isn't Game of Thrones.
yeah, exactly. But it was just so easy. It was just so, like, from my first terrible relationship that was very, very hard into just, oh, this is easy. I think this must, like, I can't imagine seeking something better than this. This is peak. And then, you know, lived together for a couple of years was like, this continues to be easy in all of the important ways. So now we'll make it legally binding. But like, I knew really early on because of that ease.
So yeah, romance. Yay.
Yay. Real love, not lust, not unrequited pining, but like, oh, working together to build a life together is satisfying and fulfilling, and ease-making is, it's nice. It's nice to see.
And I feel like Perrin and Faile have earned it as characters, right? Like the things they've gone through, the life they've built, right? Might not always be the most entertaining to read about, but they have gone through it and come out the other side. And there is a very real love and affection. They've never wavered from each other in all that time. Like, there's never been a question of, like, do they love each other? No one's ever asked that question.
I mean, I've often asked what the hell they see in each other.
Sure. But not whether or not they do see it in each other, right?
Yeah, I don't get it, but I see that it's happening, for sure. And then, yeah, the only real thing lying between them is the weird, awkward nonsense that gets resolved in this chapter because Sanderson just sits them down like a marriage counselor and just makes them talk.
Yeah, finally, Jesus. There is that.
And it's good.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that I can thank Sanderson for, is the number of times he has two characters just sit down and actually say what they think as opposed to not talking, and that's the reason for the conflict. There's a lot of that in Jordan's Wheel of Time, is people just not talking to each other.
Yeah.
Started by Moraine, right? She's the one who like sort of set that precedent by like keeping her secrets.
So then we switch POVs to Perrin, where we will remain for the rest of the chapter.
And he's like, I don't know what we're doing, and she's basically explaining this concept of the Rumspringa. I'm sorry, the Shanna'har.
Not Rumspringa. Very different concept. Yeah, he's waiting on the hilltop for her for the picnic. He doesn't know what the picnic's all about, but he's waiting for her at the date location because he is a good husband and shows up when his wife says, I want to have a date.
But he starts that date in what I know is the wrong way by saying, I suck at my job. Let's talk about my job.
Yeah, not the most romantic opener.
No.
Perrin.
Mm-mm. And he's explaining how, like, you know, God, I feel like such a bad leader because, like, I wouldn't give myself up for these people anymore. Like I used to be willing to do that. I'd give myself up for just a couple of people. And now I won't do it no matter how many people it is. And she's like, yeah, you can't be held ransom. Like that's a good leader shouldn't be able to be held ransom. Like that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, he has this extremely perfectionistic, godlike idea of what a leader has to be.
Yes.
It's just like, leaders are just people, actually. There's nothing divine or superhuman about leaders. They just lead. That's it. They're people.
And he's like, but I have weaknesses. And she's like, yeah, well, you're not a drunk. Well, you're not, you know.
Yeah.
Basically, you have a lot of strengths, and yeah, everybody has some weaknesses. You're not superhuman. And by the way, if you resigned, who do you think would be do you think they just go back to not having a leader? Well, no. Do you think they'd elect the right person? Well, maybe not. Do you think you should probably do it instead? Well, maybe. Okay, do you think you maybe should have thought of this at some fucking point, Perrin? This is, yeah. It's like she takes him through that logic that we've all been through about why Perrin should still be the leader and shouldn't give it up, that he's gone through before.
Right. And then also the whole thing where he's like, I just want to go back to the way life was before and just be a simple blacksmith. She's like, do I look like a simple blacksmith's wife to you? Because I'll pretend for a little bit, but let's be real, that's not the life I want. And you really should have cognated that at this point, that no, I'm not going to do that.
It feels a little bit like the Green Acres, if you guys get that reference. That was on late night TV back when I was a kid, but it was the woman from the city who married the farmer, and they stay on the farmer's estate. And so all the humor is that this is this high-class city lady stuck on the farm who doesn't want to do any of the farming tasks.
That's the plot of like a third of rom-coms around Christmas.
Okay.
Like weird Christmas movies that are about relationships.
Lifetime.
Like that's like one of the three things it can be. Yeah, Hallmark classic.
So are you saying Faile and Perrin's relationship is a Hallmark classic?
No, I'm saying that Perrin keeps imagining it's going to be, and Faile has to slap him and be like, no. We're an HBO miniseries.
We're going to go to the city. Although I hate this. At first, I thought you had something special planned for our Shanna'har. I grew nervous when you didn't mention it. Like, why would he know about Shanna'har? You know that's a local, like...
I know. It's a very eye of the world level. Not everyone has the same culture as me. What? Like, again, we are on book 13. We know that people have different cultures.
You just talked about how mature you were and how much far you've come, and then this feels very out of place.
Like, you've seen 2 years in the world outside of the Borderlands. You know that Shanna'har is not a thing couples do. You know that. Right.
You weren't like last year. You weren't like, why isn't anybody celebrating Shanna'har? Like,
exactly.
Also, no, I couldn't find any translation for Shanna'har. It's like there's no old tongue that it seems to be old tongue, but there's no like.
Really?
Yeah.
What? Huh. Weird.
I will try again because you seem astounded.
I am astounded.
I mean, I think it just means marriage celebration, right? Because that's the context, but yeah.
I'm just surprised that Sanderson would introduce an old tongue word and not give it a definition. That's just weird.
Not have like two different words. Hard day, Shauna, marriage day. I'm gonna go with marriage day.
Fine, whatever. The other interesting thing I think here in the sort of build up to their meal is when Perrin says, "How can I feast while my people are being held under threat of execution and while the world itself may die?" Like, how can I possibly have a good time while the world is on fire? And Faile says, YOLO, basically.
Right.
Like, if the world's going to end, like, smoke them while you got them. Right?
You can't take it with you.
Yeah, exactly. And, maybe we die tomorrow, but we're, alive, gloriously alive today, right? It's a very important conversation to have as you face down an apocalypse, or 3 in our case. And then Perrin, of course, is just like, does she want me to yell about it? It's like, God damn it, Perrin. No, obviously she doesn't want you to fucking yell. She's trying to have a serious conversation. How are you so dense? Ugh.
This is the one time she's trying to meet you on your level, not have you meet her on hers, right? So, of course, she doesn't want you to yell because she's going to the calm place to have serious discussion instead of sparking an argument to get your emotions out, right?
Yeah, and you're not even listening to her. You're busy wondering if you should yell. And it's, Nonetheless, Faile had a very mature take that, like, if the world's going to end tomorrow, we should probably have a good time today. Like, not to the point of making the world tomorrow end for sure, but, like, we can't be mired in gloom and doom all the time. We have to live life also.
So she asked Tam what the Two Rivers traditions was, and Tam's like, I don't know, I took my wife on a picnic.
And Tam is... everyone's dad. So that basically is as good as a time-honored tradition.
Right. It's like, of course, it's an old saying. I'm old and I said it.
Very much so. But it's still a cute tradition. I mean, going on a very nice picnic is very romantic. So whatever. It's like when Nynaeve was like, well, Lan gave me a ring once, and I read in a story that means you're engaged to be married now.
Right.
Even though no one has that tradition, right? It's kind of one of those moments, like the concept of a picnic. Legends fade to myth.
Also, the concept of like a circus, right? The big tent circus that Val and Luke is like, what if I just made it one big tent? You know, like that, all of that stuff where it's like, oh yeah, our modern culture is being invented here, which is in some ways weird, right? Because how would that survive another turning of the wheel?
Well, and I don't buy that no one else ever thought of going on a romantic 2-person picnic to celebrate something. Like, I'm sorry, but like wine and a blanket in a beautiful field alone with your partner, like how is this? People think of this. People will independently evolve this idea.
Right, because like going for a walk is a very simple concept, but then you get hungry. So of course you're going to bring food. And if you're going to bring food, you need a place to sit. So of course you bring a blanket to sit on, right? Like it's all very, and then of course, like then you're sitting romantically in a field on a blanket eating food. That's a picnic.
Uh-huh.
Like it takes about 3 seconds of planning to know that like, oh, the picnics are, okay, yeah.
The next gem from Faile is when she tells Perrin that he's very wolf-like, and he goes, sorry. And she says, no, I mean that as a compliment. It's a good thing. It's actually really awesome that you have this fierce, protective loyalty and focus. And this was not a, barbed comment about your table manners. This is like an intrinsic thing about you that I think is hot and is helpful as a leader.
And then what follows is him basically saying from his perspective how he did everything wrong, and from her perspective how he did what he needed to do, which was the right thing, which is the only thing that could have rescued her and brought, like, she's like, okay, I know you said you did everything wrong, but you rescued me. You have an army that's bigger, that's loyal to you, that's a unification of lots of different people. So, okay, maybe from the inside you didn't think you were doing the right thing, but from the outside, everything worked out. So you did exactly what you needed to do.
Yeah, the fake it till you make it seems to have worked. So maybe, get rid of the imposter syndrome at this point, maybe?
These last few weeks, you kept saying you led poorly during my captivity. You'd have me believe that you led the entire camp to ruin and dust, but that's not true at all. You kept them focused, you inspired them, maintained the strong presence, and kept the air of a lord. And then he's like, well, bear Elayne. And she's like,
my God.
Stop bringing up bear Elayne. Stop bringing up bear Elayne.
First
Unprompted.
of all, stop deflecting from your success. Second of all, do not say that woman's name on our anniversary picnic. This is not a work meeting. Hello? Observe, the neckline of my dress is not a business neckline.
Not a business neckline.
I'm sure she's wearing a dress that is far more seductive than it is practical,
And so then he goes to reference that rumor about him sleeping in her tent, and then Faile's like, I'll deal with her. And he's like, but no, shut up, I'll deal with her. Like, which we do see later, where they become friends, essentially, against their will, almost.
Because they're very similar people.
And that does fulfill the falcon and hawk on his shoulder prophecy.
It's the least satisfying way that prophecy could be fulfilled, but it is fulfilled. They should have been a power throuple.
Agreed. Faile's like, you can fuck him as long as, I'm there too.
Exactly.
Because that's how they lead, right? Is like they take turns supporting him when the other one can't.
It's fine. Anyway. So yeah, Perrin basically decides he needs to unburden himself of all of his anxieties about wolfy things. And Faile, does the appropriate thing, which is listen. And it's great that he just says the things and she gets to hear them, and there's no like other plots like coming through and cutting up the conversation. It's just a solid info dump.
Right. It's basically his entire story he tells her from start to finish without leaving out any of the details, which, assuming she knows a lot of those, he's told her about the wolf before on some level. Like, she knows he's in contact with them. She knows about the dream world.
But he's putting it into a new context, or a deeper context.
Yeah, right. And I feel like he does get at the root of his insecurity, which is, I cannot lead them not until I know if I can master the wolf, right? He has this fear that the wolf is going to consume him. And that, more than anything else, is why he can't lead the people, right? And I wish that we had leaned into that more, as opposed to the, no, I don't know if I'm ready. The more, I don't feel like I can master the wolf, and I don't know if I will turn into a beast and lead these people into disaster. Like, I feel like if he talked about that more and thought about that more, I would be more convinced about his like uncertainty about being a leader.
Yeah. Well, but remember, he's making a mountain out of a wolf hill.
Right. Because he's
like the whole struggle that he's worried about is just an absolute figment of his imagination and has nothing to do with actual wolf mechanics.
And kind of blame it on Moraine for not knowing the truth, right? I feel like Moraine was fed misinformation by the White Tower and spread that to Perrin.
Yeah, exactly. It's he was misinformed and didn't know how to ask Elias the right questions and is just, running from a complete figment of his own imagination. And Vuji, I think, does he talk about smelling emotions in this?
I feel like there's a point where she says, it's not fair that you can smell my emotions or something like that. I feel like we've gone past that already, but... Yeah,
I think she kind of had an idea that he can, like, smell, at least generally, like, people and their vibe of, like, anxiety or tension, I think. But for some reason, she never really calls him out on being inconsistent about that with respect to her.
Right. And I think it's one of those things where like you can intellectually know somebody's doing it, but you can't really understand how it affects their ability to understand what's going on in your head and how they're reacting to it, right? Like if you're blind, it's very hard to understand how someone can see and how that affects, I feel like, that's probably not a good analogy, but...
Well, I was just re-listening to Project Hail Mary, where it's not just a character is blind, it's that they never evolved sight in the first place.
Right. That's probably a better analogy, yeah.
Yeah, it's, also, I'm still working my way slowly through An Immense World again, and, man, that's a good book. If you want to try to get into the head of an animal with a different senses than you really got to check that book out.
An Immense World.
I've told you about it umpteen times. You
I'm
really
sure.
like it.
I'm sure.
It's good science. It's not science fiction. It sounds like science fiction sometimes, but it is in fact science.
Sometimes it doesn't matter how many times someone tells you about something. It's like you just need the right moment or the right mood.
Yeah. So Perrin gets to the end of telling her about all the things, and she says, I want to tell you about Malden, which he immediately tries to shut down. And she's like, no, I was quiet while you talked, and you shut the fuck up. And then she tells him all about Malden, and it allows her to still keep roll on a secret, but otherwise unburden herself of just the entire story. And like, it sets a lot of Perrin's mind at ease to just like know more of the details of like what happened and be like, okay, so there's something about that guy, and this is how she was mistreated by Savannah. And like, it just kind of, I don't know, I think it helps him stop ruminating a little bit because now he knows some stuff. And so it's an info dump we as the audience don't need, but they as characters need.
And I think it also helps him to be like, oh, she was going to escape on her own. Like I would,
She's not a damsel in distress. Like she was herself. Yeah.
And I do also like he kind of realizes that like she may have felt something for Roland, but like he's like, honestly, at this point, he deserved to die. He killed my people. He was with people who killed my people. They're the enemy. We're at war. Like, I don't feel bad for fighting the enemy soldier in war and winning.
Right.
Like, you can't make... Like, there's zero guilt there. Like, even if she did care for him.
Which I like to see that. I'm really, like, glad that he's just like, yeah, no feelings there. No fucks given. Mm-hmm. Behold the field in which I have grown mine fucks, and behold that it is barren. But then it does, that line of reasoning, though valid, does get him to think about the White Cloaks and be like, it seems like everyone can have...
A little empathy for them.
Yeah, people can have very radically different opinions about the same events, and that doesn't mean that either perspective is inherently incorrect. They're just different.
And he also goes that reasoning, they attacked first, right? But they attacked the wolves first. They didn't attack the humans first. So there is that little bit of like, that's where legally he gets into trouble.
Right. And, in fairness, that was a moment in which a lot of his connection to the wolves was manifesting. He truly did not have control over his definition of person versus wolf, and parsing it out after the fact and trying to put it into a legal proceeding is just not going to fit well. It's not going to fit neatly. And then, Faile says more about how I thought I should try to adapt to your ways, and he thinks that's really sweet. And then we have a nice fade to black on them doing marital things.
Which I'm glad that Sanderson didn't try and include any sexy scenes and respected that Jordan wasn't doing that in any of his...
Very okay with that.
Yeah, very okay with that. Especially having read Sanderson's other stuff. He's never tried to do a sexy scene, which is fine. I don't believe he would be good at it.
Yeah. And with that, in under an hour, despite all that meandering, we have completed the chapter.
And this is, it ends with he had Faile back truly and completely, right? This is their, they're done with this back, will they, won't they, back and forth. Like, they're just loyal to each other. There's no doubts. There's no anxiety about their relationship. We're done writing about them, will they, won't they.
Yeah. Again, sometimes when Sanderson tells us things directly, I don't mind. I'm okay with being told that is, in fact, the end of that.
So yeah, that's the Perrin Faile arc.
Yay! Air horn, air horn, air horn. We're done.
We get a little more. I do like the resolution of the Perrin Faile. I think that's actually well done. I don't like that it was a problem in the first place, but I like the resolution of it.
Sometimes you can stick the landing on even a very ugly flight path.
So now we are jumping over to Elayne.
Well, technically, Matt. This is chapter 17.
Matt and Elayne.
Partings and a meeting. The symbol is the Lion of Andor, but we open with Matt.
Now, and timeline-wise, this is a little more in sync with Rand, right? Or no, this is still a little bit earlier in Rand's timeline. Because we get to see him, and he's probably in Eredamon, in Lady Shademar's palace.
Yeah. I assumed that this was chronologically ordered with respect to Elayne's other scenes, which would mean that it is after Veins of Gold, because the last time we saw her on page, she was talking with Egwene about how he feels warm now.
Right, okay.
So if Elayne's scenes are being arranged chronologically, then this has to be post Veins of Gold. But I guess this scene doesn't actually include Elayne. I mean, this POV of Matt's, so I guess there's no reason for the different POVs in one chapter to be at the same time in the timeline. Why would we do that? That's silly. Yeah, I don't know, actually.
So yeah, I am having a little of a harder time placing Matt's timeline. And I know where Perrin's timeline is because he witnesses Veins of Gold, right? So we can work backwards from there.
Well, we know that we're at the point at which news of the reconciliation has arrived, because that's why the Aes Sedai are leaving, is to go back to a unified tower.
Okay.
Right?
And that happens, doesn't that happen the same day as Veins of Gold?
No.
No, because doesn't she look up and go like she sees the warmth? Or is that's later? You're right, that is later.
That's not the same day as the reconciliation.
You're right.
Close to it.
Because we get a flashy colors, swirls image from Matt sees Rand, and he's shaving in a fine bath chamber.
Honestly, the fact that Rand is doing his own shaving in that scene makes me feel like it must be post Veins of Gold, because now he's taking care of himself and like doing his own grooming.
Agreed. And this is, so he's probably in Eredamon for the second time.
Yeah, that's what I would assume. He's doing the whole, oh, by the way, I just fixed all your grain / you only opened the bad grain stacks situation.
So this is the morning after the golem attack, right?
Right. Matt rolls out from under a wagon where he was sure that the golem wouldn't find him because it was so random.
And I feel like, when was the last time we actually saw Matt? I feel like it's been a while.
Last time was An Unexpected Letter, which was chapter 11. And we are now on chapter 17. So 6 chapters ago.
So not that long ago.
So yeah, Matt's in a bad mood because he slept poorly and his serving man got killed. So he's grumpy.
Okay, so this is the day after, even though, so we saw him, chapter 8 and 9 is when that happened, when the golem attacked. Anyway, okay. And so he slept under Eludra's
work wagon.
Wagon. It's basically under the chemical wagon that he chose by rolling dice, right? So he's being lucky. So I guess I should read us in on this one.
Sure.
Partings in a meeting. The morning after the golem attack, Matt woke from dreams rotten as last month's eggs, feeling stiff and aching. He had spent the night sleeping in a hollow he'd found beneath Eludra's supply wagon. He had chosen the location by random chance, using his dice. He climbed out from under the wagon, standing and rolling his shoulder, feeling it pop. Bloody ashes. One of the best things about having money was not having to sleep in ditches. There were beggars who spent nights better than this. The wagon smelled of sulfur and powders. He was tempted to peek under the oiled tarp that stretched over the back of it, but there would be no point. Eludra and her powders were incomprehensible. So long as the dragons performed, Matt did not mind not knowing how they worked. Well, he did not mind it much. Not enough to risk irritating her. She was not there at the wagon, fortunately for Matt. She would complain at him again for not having gotten her a bell founder. She seemed to think him her own personal messenger boy, an unruly one who refused to do his job properly. Most women had moments like that. He walked through camp, brushing bits of straw from his hair. He almost went searching for Lopen to have him draw a bath until he remembered that Lopen was dead. Bloody ashes. Poor man.
It's so sad.
His rumpled appearance feels like he's mourning Lopen. Like, that's like why he won't get cleaned up, is because he's like, my serving man is dead and I look like shit. Like, that's how he's sort of presenting his grief.
You know, that makes a lot of sense. He won't even like say it, but like that totally makes sense. He's like, I can't touch that. I have to just leave it for a minute. This also reminds me that we had some errata, that Matt actually didn't get Naram killed. He goes back to work for Talmanis and is never mentioned again. We had that whole long digression, and then I still got corrected by chat. And then I didn't mention it for episodes. And I'm sorry, but here, now I've put my errata in. Because, anyway. Yeah, Matt and his serving man situation is a bit of a disaster.
Yeah, I saw that correction, and I was like, oh, yeah, I guess that. And I looked it up, and I was like, yeah, that's right. I didn't realize it. I just assumed he was killed.
Yeah, there's a lot about this podcast that's kind of starting to wind down. My ability to comprehend all the things.
Oh my God, there's so many details. I feel like I've forgotten so much. Yeah.
I'm smoking around the ears. So yeah, Joline is the first person to walk up. We're sort of a parade of characters in this chapter, but Julian's the first one to show up, and it's like, so the Aes Sedai are leaving, and me and Thera are going with them. So, bye.
Mm-hmm. And this is the last we see of Joline, as far as I'm aware.
That bums me out.
He arrives in the White Tower, but we get a letter that he and the party arrived in the White Tower, but we never see him on screen again. So, but he and Thera, I assume, have a nice, fun time in the White Tower and live out their lives married.
Yeah, I'm assuming they have an uneventful happily ever after.
Right.
That's what I want for them.
I feel like both characters were just like around and nobody knew what to do with them for the last few books, right? Like, because Thera had a couple of moments where like Nynaeve redeemed her for a little while, and like I thought she was gonna have an arc where she comes out of her shell a little bit and does something, and it's like, nope, she's just still very timid. She's attached to Joline because he's gonna protect her, right? And that's as far as her story ever goes, because she was traumatized twice.
Yeah, she had a really tough time,
and the Shan Chan did the worst. She came back from the Forsaken, but she didn't come back from what the Shan Chan did to her.
Yeah. The Shan Chan have heavy Arid Hall energy.
Yeah.
Light.
Interesting contrast to Egwene, though, right? Like this queen who was supposed to be strong went through it, and so did Egwene, and it broke one of them and not the other.
Well, was she supposed to be strong, or was she supposed to be politically useful to the powers that be? Right? This is the thing, is Egwene was chosen for strength and then hardened under pressure, whereas Thera was... Amathera at the time was, playing politics. Like, she wasn't hard. She wasn't supposed to be hard. Strength wasn't a qualifying feature of those kinds of politics. So, but yeah, sometimes people don't come back from their trauma. Sometimes the reality is that you just stay traumatized, and that is your new reality. And she found someone who wanted to take care of her and have an uneventful life. So I'm going to assume that that's what they have, is an extremely uneventful and content happily ever after. But Joline deserved better. He did some cool shit before, and he deserved to have some kind of heroic, but he survives kind of role in the last battle. That would have been cool.
I feel like him and Gnome almost, right, have the same... Like, he could have been the third that went with Matt and Tom.
Noel?
What'd I say?
Not wolf boy Gnome.
I'm sorry.
I was like, what about Joline as a wolf boy? I don't get that at all.
Noel, yeah, like I feel like he could have been the third, right? He could have been the Noel if Noel hadn't been Jane Farstrider, right? Like,
right.
And if that hadn't been an epic ending to his...
Right. And then Matt could have done the cool thing where like everyone lives because like he beats the odds that hard kind of situation. Yeah, that would have been cool.
That would have been cool. Because I think, because Tom and Joline spent so much time together, right?
Mm-hmm.
That like him being a friend to be like, we fought together side by side.
We're not letting you go alone, Matt. We, as a team, are not letting you go alone. Yeah, that would have been cool.
And I do like the animosity between Joline and Vannon, because Vannon's a thief and Julian's a cop. So
Right, yeah.
They have this tension where it's like, you break the law, you enforce the law, but we're on the same side right now.
Because Matt is chaos.
Yeah, Matt is chaos. And in fairness, Vannon hasn't broken the law. He hasn't stolen a horse in a long time. He's doing everything since he got recruited. Hasn't broken the law since.
Oh, yeah. He's above board now, but he still doesn't like cops. He's still Team ACAB.
Uh-huh.
So Matt wanders off to the kitchen and gets buns that have blue dye in them. And then comes wandering over to the Aes Sedai to prank Joline and also say goodbye to everybody else.
Yeah, and it's sort of a parade of the women who can channel who have been hanging out with him, you know?
Sanderson's like, I am jettisoning these characters as fast as I can.
He's still like, goodbye, Bethaman. Goodbye, Sita. Goodbye, Joline. Goodbye.
Yeah, He's like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to write it. I don't want to remember it. I don't want to track it. They are all leaving. They are all going to ride to the White Tower, and I will not have to think about them. And Matt has an interesting interaction with the former Suldam, right? Because they have become, de facto novices. They want to go to the White Tower and learn now. And they're kind of depressed and despondent and, maybe we should just kill ourselves instead, yada, yada. And he says, go and learn how to channel and be ready to help me deal with the Empire and the rippling fallout that comes from the thing we all know, which is that the Empress can channel. Like, this is going to be a problem for the Empire. It would be very helpful if you knew what you were doing and you were ready to help me deal with it. And that, gives them a new thing to look for in life because they're, Empire-oriented. They can't stand the thought of being cast off from the Empire. He just threw them a lifeline to let them stay connected to the Empire.
And I think that the lines like that is what makes us really disappointed that there aren't going to be any Outrigger novels.
Oh my God, right?
That's the line that makes me go, oh, he knows. He knows this is a problem. He is thinking about it. He will fix it. Now, I thought there would be more fixing of it in this book. I didn't realize we weren't going to get to see any of that. I thought that the fixing of it was what would let the Shan-Chan enter the last battle. I am disappointed that they didn't fix it to enter the last battle, but this tells me that at least Matt is aware of that. He's thinking about it. It's not going to get left behind.
Ultimately, Matt is going to get to it. It's on his to-do list. It's unfortunately low down, but it is on the list.
And he's got Min as an ally, right?
Mm-hmm. And he's also setting these two up to be his bridge ally type people. The groundwork is laid. It truly is being laid.
Mm-hmm. So then he thinks about Rand, and we get to see Rand in the palace.
Again, all of his closest friends, all of Rand's closest friends are having these very Sandersonian on-the-page insights. Oh, that's how Rand has been feeling, right? Egwene understands his sense of captivity. Perrin understands being pulled in all directions. Matt understands having people look up to him for things he doesn't know if he can actually deliver on, right? They're all having these moments of empathy for Rand, right as Rand is having empathy for himself, more or less. It's all very neat and tidy and makes the plot a lot more aerodynamic.
And we're getting to the end of the series. You need these characters to have these realizations, to complete their arcs.
And with how fog of war Jordan was about some stuff, I don't always hate Brandon Sanderson just blowing some of the fog away and letting us actually see the architecture.
And I remember the first time I read these, I really did appreciate that he was spelling some of this stuff out.
Yeah, some of it's a little ham-fisted, but so much of it is a breath of fresh air.
Then we deal with Bael Domon and Llewellyn.
Yeah, which is a cold goodbye. They are not on the best of terms.
No, he does not like them at all, but that's okay. But this is setting up Llewellyn to go be Egwene's warder.
Yeah.
I always intended to make my way to the White Tower. I set my mind there on the day I left Ebu Dar. Because she needs to go be, she feels like she needs to make up for some of the things she's done. Like, she has a lot of guilt over her actions in Ebu Dar.
Right. And she has given up her connection to the Empire. She has to find her own thing. Unlike the former Suldam who can be tossed that lifeline, there's no lifeline for her. She has to find something new. And yeah, the betrayed Egwene is the best place she's got to start. It's her biggest failure. So
And I wish she'd become the warder much earlier instead of Gawain.
God, I freaking loved Egwene with the surly Shan warrior as her warder. It just the contrasts there, the enemies to friends dynamic that was being set up. It went with her dream. I loved that dynamic. When she was like, actually, I'm going to choose heartbreak instead, I was very disappointed because I loved the brief moments that they were a team. But yes, this is setting up for that.
She was never on Bail Domon's ship, right?
No. She almost was, right? Bail Domon's ship was what was set up to be the escape vessel when she was going to get broken
That's
out.
right.
Like she was he was ready to be her ship, but then, the Dragon Reborn stuff, Horn of Valir, yada, yada, all that happened. And I also love the idea that the Amerlin's warder has a warder, right? Because Bail Domon is a bodyguard, if
right.
not a true warder, right? So it's like the Amerlin is so important that her warder needs a bodyguard or has a bodyguard. It's very secure. It's very, very secure. And then we go and talk to the Aes Sedai, including Joline, who gets given the dosed buns, which it's not dosed with drugs or anything. It's just with dye, but still, they're prank buns.
Turns her mouth blue, yeah. One of the things people cite when they say, well, Matt Cawthon feels childish, and it's like, that feels maybe a little pranky. That's like old school Matt. And he's like trying to bring that old Matt back a little bit. I don't know.
I like that Tom says what we're all thinking on the page. And then Matt, as Sanderson as Matt, says, well, I thought it was funny to try to do an Eye of the Worldism. So fuck off.
Right.
Just like, all right. I mean, that's your authorial choice to get to do that. It's a fun fourth wall breaking at the end of the chapter. But before we get to that, he does have an actual message for them to take to the White Tower. And he says, this is going to be easy if Egwene is Amerlin, but even if she's not Amerlin, you still have to tell the Amerlin that I need the Horn of Valir. I mean, he doesn't say it exactly in those terms, but essentially he says, I'm going to need the Horn of Valir real soon. So the Amerlin best get that on top of the pile in the warehouse. I don't want to be digging around underneath crates of ter'angreal. I want that up on top, ready to go with a note. So the secretary doesn't need to call management. I want that ready.
So Encyclopedia Watt says that in this timeline, Elaida is still in the White Tower.
So why are they headed back?
I mean, they asked to leave last time, and he said yes.
I thought they did that because they heard a rumor that the tower was reunified.
Let's see. Tower of the Midnight, Chapter 8. There are conflicting rumors about the White Towers and the rebels. So, let's see. Towers of Midnight, Chapter 8. Let me go by there for a second. It's right at the end. You've heard the news of the White Tower. News? Some say the White Tower has been reunified, which is what you're probably talking about. But I've also heard just as many say it's still at war.
And that the Amerlin fought the last battle in Rand's place, which is the battle on the White Tower, which is the day before the reunification, or 2 days, less than 48 hours before the reunification.
So, okay, Encyclopedia Watt has to be wrong about that then.
Yeah, that is empirically incorrect. Sorry, Encyclopedia Watt.
Yeah, this definitely feels like it has to be after.
Yeah, if there's news of a giant battle that was fought at the White Tower, we know when we are in the timeline. There's no way that a rumor like that happened before the actual event.
Right. I like that he sends his soldiers with them so that they can bring the horses back. And so he's like, you don't get to keep the horses. I'm not gifting you the horses. And they're like, oh, well, we thought we'd get to keep them.
Yeah, he's like, did you? That's an asshole move, Joline. Okay.
It's also a sneaky way to give them a guard the whole way, though, as well.
It's also a sneaky way to get any intel that they might be able to pick up along the way. There's many, many dips that he can do with that single chip. I also love how he casually thinks that maybe he should go get Egwene out of whatever trouble she's in with the tower. Like, he assumes that she is on top and is like, yeah, I should probably go rescue her from being on top.
Which is consistent with his thinking, right? He always thinks the girls are in trouble. They're in too deep. I need to go get them out. What are you doing pretending to be Aes Sedai? Matt, we are Aes Sedai. No, you're not. There's no way.
He's still in that mindset. I love it. He is still a little bit childish and slow. Sometimes non-growth is the growth we want.
Did we talk about his message about the Horn of Valir?
I did.
You did, yeah.
I was euphemizing a lot, but yes,
Right.
that was what I was saying. And then he asks about Satala Anan because he figured, all the Aes Sedai women are going to go. But no, she, in fact, feels weird around them and wants to try to return to her life as a stilled woman. and is actively avoiding the whole proceeding and micromanaging the men cooking because that gives her something to do while the party takes off. All right, yeah, Vannon gets sent along to gather information. The other soldiers are a guard. Vannon is the intel guy.
Because, now that Masana needs help in the White Tower, so Vannon's headed in that direction. Because he's also Forsaken, right?
Yeah, Vannon Dread is a very real theory that totally holds water. And Joline makes one more pass at Matt. One more pass, like, I really want you to be my warder. I could force bond you right now. And he's like, you are giving me Tylan ick vibes. So how about you just skedaddle with your buns? Goodbye.
Please stop with the rapey, please.
Yeah, just go away. I don't like feeling predated on. Thank you.
I feel like Joline and Alana have a lot in common.
Yes, very much. Very much. Fiery greens with a flexible concept of consent.
Yeah, so and then there's the thing about Tom. At the very end, he talks about sprinklewort that'll turn her mouth blue because she eats all the sweet buns.
It's like blue gentian or something. Like,
and he's like, I'm trying to get back to my basic roots, recapture some of my lost youth. You're barely 20 winters old. Sure, but I did a lot of living when I was younger.
the fourth wall has been broken to the point that it's a little bit like being ground into dust under our feet at this point.
That's, pretty hard. And it's like, shouldn't he be a little more mature with all the memories in his head? I feel like he's been maturing more with those memories.
He's trying to be less mature. He's been getting more and more integrated with those memories, and he's actively trying to pull the average back down by being extra childish. That's literally what he says he's doing. It's very silly and weird and whatever. And then we hop over to like 10 minutes where he finds Mistress Anna doing her aforementioned busy work to keep herself from thinking about how she could be going back to the White Tower, but she's not going to because she's a married woman who can't be healed from stilling now.
And how her boobs look great, but not that he was not thinking about it. Not that he noticed.
Yeah, only Joline had a predatory light in her eyes, Matt, for sure. For sure. Okay. So yeah, she asks him what's really going on, and he says, I need you to look after Oliver because Golem shenanigans, basically, and you're, the closest thing we have to a maternal figure in this army, so can you take the child, please?
She says, fine, but you need to get cleaned up. You look like a mess. Get a new serving man or something.
Yeah, which is why he tacks it on as an addendum to his requests from Elayne once they finally have their meeting, is because Satala puts it in his head that grieving is all well and good, but you need a serving man. That is a part of your routine at this point.
And then he kind of apologizes, like, I'm sorry you were stilled. And she's like, the past is the past. I shouldn't have been poking at it. I'm sorry I asked to see her Terangrial, but...
I never know how I feel about her just really refusing to consider getting healed. Because, I get it. She's got a life now. Spouse and children and a life she might not want to, somehow magically outlive. But also, but it could be healed. I don't know.
Maybe. My headcanon is that severing, right, when you're cut off, that can be healed because that's a clean cut. But when you still yourself the way she did, that connection is so badly destroyed that there's nothing to...
Well, sure, but she doesn't even want to try. That's, we don't even... Yeah. I totally agree that with her having learned to live around it, it makes sense that it wouldn't work. But the fact she doesn't want to try is oh... But I get it, because if it worked, then she might end up, vampire outliving her husband, which would suck.
And don't forget, and like I said, she was stilled by an accident with Terangrial, right?
She was burned out.
Burned out, yeah.
Because stilling is when it's intentional, and burning out.
Sure.
Yeah, but yeah.
Stilling, severing, gentling.
Yeah.
There's a lot of terms for it. Because it's so bad, everyone, And also, I do like that we have Age of Legends terms as well as modern terms for a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's one of the things I really like about when you'd see Lewis Theron creep into Rand. And one of the things I didn't realize on my first couple of rereads is some of the phrases that are Age of Legends phrases about channeling that he uses.
So now we POV switch to, I'm assuming, more or less the same day, but now we're with Elayne, and this is the final POV of the chapter, and a lot of important negotiations for the short, medium, and long term are going to happen.
I thought we got some confirmation on our progress in terms of her pregnancy. She felt enormous. The pregnancy was only just beginning to show.
Like I said last time, Nynaeve had to double take to notice it, and she's a healer. So she's only just starting to show.
So beginning of the second trimester?
I think that's right. Yeah, she thinks about how much of a pain in the ass it is that she has to order maternity gowns in different sizes. All I can think about is the fact that they don't have sewing machines. So all of that is hand sewn.
All of it.
And it's a lot of seamstresses keeping her in maternity gowns.
And these are nice gowns too. These aren't just like robes.
Very nice gowns.
Yeah, these are very nice gowns. Yeah.
These are not shapeless things you can let extra seam space out of. These are like nice fitted queenly gowns that have to be set to each month, more or less, of her pregnancy progression.
She is the queen of a giant nation. It's okay that she has nice clothes.
It's okay. I'm just thinking it's a lot of labor. There's a lot of needles flying down in the lower city to make this work. That's a lot of shopped out labor that her people are doing.
The Aes Sedai wardrobe alone probably keeps armies of seamstresses working.
Yeah. As I do my sewing machine podcast and learned that really all sewing machines do is they exist to make the needle go faster, the more I look at stuff where it's like, oh yeah, and then fantasy person, medieval person, whatever, just threw away their clothes, let them get torn, let them get damaged. I'm like, that's so much labor. Sewing it on a sewing machine is so much labor. Sewing it on a treadle is about the same amount of labor as sewing with electricity. But hand sewing, guys, hand sewing. Like, okay, so when Singer first had like an awesome machine, I think it was Singer, but they would do like speed tests with like how fast can a single seamstress with the sewing machine, put together this shirt versus someone with a needle, and it was like an hour versus 15 hours, right? Like early days of I finally have a prototype that can make a whole shirt without breaking. It was instantly like a 15-hour reduction in time. It's just, it's totally reasonable that a queen have a great wardrobe. I'm just saying there's so many more people employed in the textile industry of Camelin than you think.
I kind of feel the same way when I see like superheroes or magic destroying like buildings. And I'm like, oh, do you know how much work went into like designing and putting that up and prepping the space for it? Was like years and multiple people's lives go into making like a single building, You
have to demo the whole thing just in order to rebuild it. Like, yeah. Yeah, the city is flattened. Thank you, Superman.
Right. It's like, yes, you saved lives, but you've literally destroyed billions of dollars worth of infrastructure.
Yeah, like the trains won't be running for another 2 years with what you just did to that bridge. Like,
it's one of the things I really like about The Incredibles. They get that part right. Oh, did you also notice how when she visits the garden, they literally have to carry water up the stairs to pour it so that she gets a little creek to sit by?
Okay, now that's some 1% shit right there. Unnecessary 1% shit.
Well, the creek only flows when I visit because we literally have to carry the water up some stairs.
I mean, I guess it could probably just be part of the watering system, right? Like where the thing flows out to it could just be part of how the regular gardening is happening. They set a few jugs aside for that. But I just I don't know. If you need people to carry water to the roof for a little tinkling stream, maybe you don't need a little tinkling stream.
Also, like, this is Camelin. Do we not have the concept of there are very simple pumps, primitive pumps that would bring water up, like water wheels, right? Like, it feels like there should be a way to have water elevated.
Maybe it's because of the drought. Maybe normally the cistern is like full with rainwater and it's not an issue, but because of the drought situation, it's not.
Maybe.
I don't know. It feels like going from, oh, bother, I have to order new maternity gowns to the stream only flows in my presence because you have to carry the water upstairs. It just feels like Sanderson's leaning hard on how 1%y it is to be the Queen of England. I mean, Andor.
Yeah. And then we get I'm safe because of my babies argument between Brigida and Elayne. And it's, 2 pages of, I'm going to be fine. You might not be fine. You could lose an arm. You could be brain dead. You could be injured horribly. They could cut the babies out of you. No, I'll be fine.
It's 1 page in my book, but it's annoying. It's ridiculous. It's annoying. And Elayne brushes all of those concerns aside like they are nothing. She's just like, nah, that won't happen. It's like, it literally almost happens, and the only reason it doesn't happen is because Ghost Brigida gets summoned by the Horn in the nick of time. That's the only reason you don't get Caesarean on the freaking battlefield.
Which, I mean, God, as early as she is in the pregnancy, do you think there's any way the babies could have survived? Or is there enough time passing because she's like farther away from the battle?
Oh, she's about ready to pop by the time that scene happens. No, she is like, the babies are going to be born any day now when that whole scene happens.
Okay. So there's a big chunk of time that passes between now and then where she is.
Oh, yeah, no, because she is the head general of the actual larger army battle thing, not at Shale Ghul, the battle everywhere else. Yeah, she's pretty far away. And yeah, months go by, months upon months go by, obviously, because yeah, she is far too pregnant to be on a horse swinging a sword at a Trolloc at the time she is.
That's kind of crazy. Where was your dad during your pregnancy? Oh, he was fighting a battle the whole time? Yeah, pretty much.
Right?
Right?
Right? Yeah, totally. For the entire second half of my gestational period, he was fighting one battle. Not even a war, a single battle. It was a duel, actually. It wasn't even a battle, it was a duel.
Yeah, I mean, there was like Moradin and Nynaeve and Moraine are there too.
He was dueling with Moradin while Nynaeve and Moraine held the power for him.
I was thinking the Dark One then.
And while Alana was bleeding out on the thing.
Fair.
Well, the Dark One was working through Moradin, whatever.
Whatever.
It's not a battle proper. The battles are all happening outside.
Right.
Anyway, Sumeko and Elise of the kin of the wannabe yellow and wannabe blue, respectively, they show up to have Elayne have a meeting with them about the future of the kin, because we have a lot of ideas about what the kin could be, but there's still a lot of room to put more ideas on the board.
We also put a nail in the who was killing the kin storyline, right? No more killing have mysteriously disappeared since Kareen was killed.
Yeah, she was behind the killings all along. End, done, no loose ends, no red herrings, nothing. We're done. Thank you, Sanderson. Love that clarity.
These chapters do feel like Sanderson's like bringing dangling plot lines out back and just capping them in the head one at a time. Just like done. Just
I would describe it more like weeding, but yes.
Yeah, weeding's a good way to put it, right? He's clearing up the garden so only the biggest, strongest storylines.
He's thinning. Yeah, he's thinning down the starts and being like, no, we can't have 3 tomato plants here. That's simply too many tomato plants. 1 tomato plant will survive. The other 2 need to go. Thank you.
The problem is these aren't starts, though. These are giant, viney tomatoes that are choking each other out because they've been intertwined for 14 books.
Yeah. It's an abandoned garden being cleared out, and you have to make some rough choices on an old abandoned garden in order to make it pretty and manageable again. Because, as we've said many times, Jordan was a gardener. As a writer, that was his style. And yeah, this one has been left to go wild at this point. And like some of the grape plants have gotten into the pathways and they are going to need to be extricated entirely. Yes, you're a lovely grape plant, but I need that pathway. Thank you.
And it's not like he's pulling out these healthy plants. They've lived their lifespan. They've told their story, right? These storylines are done. Like we don't need to go back and talk about them again.
Yeah. You need a rake. You need some loppers. You need a brush whacker. We just got to clear this out. It's too much. It's a fire hazard.
And so there's this sort of back and forth between the kin and Elayne, basically. But it essentially something comes to Elayne being like, so where are you going to live? You're going to live here in Camelin? Let's make a deal.
Basically. She says, you're at a crossroads and I am also at a crossroads. Why don't we build a very successful business together? And then she pitches the wildly radical concept of imagine a city free of disease where people can just get healing, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like,
the way Tarvalin should have
hey,
been.
Yellow Aja,
Yeah.
Are you listening? Like, the Yellow Aja could have been doing this in every capital city of the known world. This could have been all of Tarvalin and every capital city. And it's just...
And how good of a recruiting tool would that have been?
Again, Sanderson, as a fan of the books, being like, this should have been happening and I'm going to make it happen now. And I love that for him and us. And yeah, great recruitment tool. Here's a bunch of retired Aes Sedai doing end of career stuff, telling you everything you need to know about your potential career in the White Tower. Pretty good.
And then you have people in cities who can identify people who can channel, who come to them for healing and send them off to the White Tower, right? Like you have a local representative where you can be like, I need healing. And while you're there, you're like, I can channel, help me. You know, like that level of like, it's cover.
so many less people would die or get other people hurt in the process of learning how to channel, right? You have a way higher retention rate of people instead of people just burning out or going insane because they,
There's a reason every city needs a Planned Parenthood. I mean, akin location. The free healthcare for women is, and then under the cover of bringing them and recruiting them into and getting help from whatever situation they may be in.
Yeah, exactly. And Camelin is a great place for that model to start. If it's not going to start in Tar Valon, then I guess Camelin's going to step up to the plate and get that ball rolling.
How do you think the raising of Camelin affects this?
I think they're one of the leaders in building back.
Mm-hmm. Do you think after the last battle, Camelin's just rebuilt and basically everything? Yeah.
It's been around since the end of Arthur Hawking's empire. It's got the love of the Dragon Reborn living there. I foresee the city being rebuilt and the kin being a really big part of that. And probably the Black Tower, too, being a really big part of putting that city back together.
I can actually see it be like the first city rebuilt by male and female channelers and be like all the beauty and like they can construct things that are like supernatural. It's like the first city truly built with the power. Like I could see that being really cool.
Yeah, and then it would be not in rivalry with Tar Valon for being an epic city, but it would be in the same league. Because it would be the first city built with that collaboration since the breaking. And it would be a center of power, but a different center of power. Not a competitive center of power, just a different one.
Probably built by the Ogier because they're back involved.
Oh, they would be back for sure. Yeah. Loyal would insist on making the very best memorial library wing to Rand ever,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so she makes the deal basically like, I want gateways and healing. Healing's for free. You can make some money off the gateways. And we'll all get rich off the gateways, basically.
Right, because trade has always been the lifeblood of an empire's economy. We're just tapping into that with new technology.
No, logistics, right? Like being able to supply your armies, that more than anything else is how like the US is still winning across the world with our armies. It's not necessarily the quality of our weapons or anything like that. It's the fact that we can get food, weapons, and troops pretty much anywhere we want within 24 hours, and probably faster. If we're talking about the U.S. military.
It's what made the Roman Empire so effective at Roman empiring, was their ability to do logistics and build roads and effectively move units of men and material around. Like it's a really great way to be both militarily and economically powerful.
And I don't believe the Ogier would read the Book of Translation right after the last battle. I think they're going to be around for another age.
Yeah, I don't see them taking off just as soon as the world starts to get better. That seems like an odd choice.
Right. It's like, yes, they do need to do the Book of Translation, but they have... This is only the fourth age, right? They have until the first... They're not in the first age, but that's 3 more ages they could be involved in, right? We don't know what the event is that has them actually read the Book of Translation, but it's not the last battle, and it's not the aftermath of the last battle.
Yeah, I assume it's the end of the 4th or maybe the 5th age is like part of that conclusion is the ending of the era of Ogier. But yeah, not the 4th age. The 4th age will still have Ogier Masons because like Loyal's book exists and stuff. And you think he's not going on a book tour? Nah.
Right. Yeah, he'd have to be there, right? His book, right? All those quotes of the 4th age. Yeah, that's a good point.
Exactly. Elise and Sumeko have a little bit of a not exactly power struggle, but they have 2 different approaches to how they want to deal with the White Tower, right? Elise is very skeptical, whereas Sumeko is gung-ho for the tower, right? She is the Elayne in this situation, whereas Elise is more like the Nynaeve, which makes sense because they're both yellow. But it's like, if the White Tower doesn't want me, I don't want the White Tower. I'm not going to accept second-class citizenship status in that frame.
Right. Well, and their difference in attitude is one of them has the power to go become an Aes Sedai. The other one doesn't. Right. So one of them is going to stay in the kin. One of them is going to become an Aes Sedai. And so in a lot of ways, they have different motivation.
Yeah. And Sumeko just can't imagine that someone doesn't want to be an Aes Sedai and doesn't want to consider Aes Sedai the best. And like, no, there are other people with different abilities out there who can't do what you can do, and they actually would like to be considered full human beings with full status and rights and respectability in their own right, even if they can't meet your standard. And also, like, Sumeko will be back in the kin someday if she becomes Aes Sedai, because she'll
Right.
have to retire into
Retire
the
at some
kin.
point. That is kind of funny. That would be an interesting power dynamic, because like for everybody else, right, it's kin is by age. Although Elayne does say she wants to push them to restructure how they choose leaders, but like,
I hope they do.
but what structure are they going to use, right? Like we don't know.
Elise is in charge.
But why?
That's the structure. These are naive rules because I said so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think that they'll figure out some sort of meritocracy style thing where like the people who want to be in charge have the ability to like vote amongst themselves, like who's going to be in charge for the next year or something like that.
I thought the age thing would be interesting, because then you always have the oldest Aes Sedai are always going to be the youngest kin. And so you all have these Aes Sedai of no matter what power level they come in at the beginning, at the lowest level of the kin, because they're the youngest.
I mean, that would be funny. That would be funny.
So I kind of like that.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Yeah, the Aiel system kind of works. You just kind of declare your status and people affirm it or not.
You have to have an internal sense of honor, and they also have a hazing system, right? You have to go through the tests.
Yeah.
And that does kind of prevent anyone who doesn't follow your way from getting in.
Well, maybe once they have the Aiel exchange program, the Seafolk exchange program, we'll have a little more of a diverse cultural stew pot from which to try to draw ideas and build something that actually works for women who are, looking at their 4th century of life and a restructuring of how they've lived their whole lives up until that point.
Yeah, the fuckery from Savannah. Savannah did the same thing Trump did, where she walked in and said, well, technically, all these things you've been saying are just custom, and I can ignore them because it's not law, and therefore I get away with everything, because no one has a law to stand on. I'm just breaking custom, and you might not like that, but you can't legally stop me.
You know, that's actually a really good comparison that we as a fandom have not made enough. You know, there's a lot of mileage in the Elaida comparison, but there's a lot of untapped mileage in a Savannah comparison, because, if you're willing to throw out custom, you can get away with a lot of stuff in a way that someone who still feels obliged to follow the law, like Elaida, right? Elaida screams, I am Tower Law. It matters to her that she is doing something legally. Savannah, it doesn't.
Well, but she says her word makes it legal, so that's kind of...
Well, but still, the delusion in her head is that the law matters. Savannah is just like, but what if it didn't?
And also just the incredible desire for wealth over everything else, and using her personal power to acquire wealth.
Yeah, this is an underutilized comparison, for sure. All right, Rob, Weekly Wheel News. This is your assignment. Make a Savannah Trump comparison. The yes ands what you've been doing with Elaida. That's your assignment.
There's this creepy thing about bluebells that had flowered, bred, and bled when someone cut them. And now there's like an empty, like, again, just the corruption, just more corruption. The Dark One is reaching out and touching the world.
I like that the corruption is getting weirder and more subtle. It used to just be a big binary, something is wrong. Now it's like, oh, the flowers are flowering. They're flowering blood, but they are flowering. It's not that they won't grow. I like that it's creeping into smaller and smaller little pieces of reality. And Elayne sort of reflects on why she's doing all of this. And it's because after the last battle, the Shanna'har are still going to be a problem. And she needs to be ready to deal with that because she is a far-seeing queen.
Sooner or later, the Shanna'har would be able to travel. All they needed to do was capture Elaida. I mean, one woman who knew the weaves. Yeah, so...
Strategic thinking. Mm-hmm. She knows that their biggest asset is incredibly weak to that human weakness. Like, if you get one person, one is all it takes, and it will spread like a virus.
And since we think this is after the battle, right, because the rumors of the battle have spread to Matt, that they've got her. Like, it's too late. Like, they have already got traveling.
Elayne is thinking about this as the problem is developing. She's like, I should plan for that eventuality. We know it is in the act of becoming no longer an eventuality.
And then she thinks about recruiting the Black Tower, right, because they're Andondoran soil, and like how they could, if she's got the Black Tower and the kin, that's a real edge against the Shanna'har.
Which she's not wrong. And, the Black Tower as it currently stands, terrible idea. But the Black Tower as it will exist after the last battle, It's going to be well set up for that. Logain will have had his whole epiphany about how helping people is going to like keep him sane for the rest of his life. And fighting back against the Shan-Chan, I think, will meet that criteria for his career.
Well, and don't forget, the Shan-Chan now have copies of the male Adom, so they are a real threat.
Yeah. Yeah. So teaming up with Andor would be very smart for the Black Tower in terms of the how do we deal with the Shan-Chan and their belligerence and slavery.
This kind of reminds me of like getting ready to fight Russia after the World War II. Whereas like, yes, the Germans are the enemy, but once they're defeated, Russia's going to be a problem. And like how much brinksmanship and stuff was going on before the end of the war. And that's what led to the East-West Germany or East-West Berlin divide and stuff like that. Like and a bunch of other.
And East-West Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a really good comparison. Like, yes, obviously we have the one enemy, but that is the only reason we're on the same team. Mm-hmm. Like, we were enemies before this third party showed up, and we will go right back to being enemies as soon as they are dealt with. That is a very realistic comparison. And it's not bad. Yeah, if you don't, you're just asking to be swallowed up. And it's depressing and stupid and realistic.
And I think that brings us to the readout.
Yeah, I agree. She needed something, an edge against the Shan-Chan, something to balance their channelers in combat. The only thing she could think of was the Black Tower. It was on Andor's soil. She'd told them that she considered them part of her nation, but so far she'd gone no further than sending inspection parties. What would happen to them if Rand died? Dared she try to claim them? Dared she wait for someone else to? Which is a good question, because someone will.
Someone will. But, White Towers, no one's claimed the White Tower. They are nationless. They exist in a space between Andor, Kyrian, and the Borderlanders.
But if she tries to insist on asserting power over them and they don't like it, they will make alliance with one of her enemies. So, yeah, you can't put that off forever. But yeah, there you go. There's 2 chapters. First one didn't have much, and the second one had a lot of plot jettisoning.
Yes.
A lot of characters and plots being removed from
weeding
the stage. Lots of weeding. Lots of. This was a weeding chapter.
It was a weeding chapter. A weed out chapter. But it had some fun little stuff in it. But yeah.
I enjoyed it. But that's really all I've got. It was not a lot of large implications, just a lot of plot pruning. And yeah.
Yes, a little bit of recap. A little more Perrin next chapter. Perrin and Faile. A little Ruth La Duralta. And then some more Matt. So actually very, very similar. Next week will be very similar, I feel like, to these 2 chapters. Same kind of like taking these plot lines. And we're in the stage now where like we're not recapping anymore, but we are like he's moving his pieces into place to get ready for the Sander Lanch, but you got to set the Sander Lanch up, and that's where there's a lot of sort of moving pieces around the board where you're like, this doesn't feel like a lot's happening, but pieces are moving and things are getting set up for the end.
Let's turn record again before any more of this good content gets lost.
Recording. So yeah, you're saying you've gone back and been listening to early chapters of Wheel of Time for sleep aids.
Yeah, it's really funny, like having Perrin now being like, oh, there was this thing that happened to me, and then I'm falling asleep to like the actual chapter where those events happened. It's been a very interesting pairing of just like, oh yeah, that is how that went down. And Perrin really doesn't ever let it go. Like, those are such formative events. Anyway, conking out now. It really helps because then when I wake up in the middle of the night, I can tell that time has passed. I can even approximate how much time has passed. and anticipate potentially how much time is left. And if I can't fall back asleep, at least I'm listening to something very, very comforting. And man, 1990 Michael Kramer and Kate Redding, like the recording is so much warmer because it was analog and their voices are so much younger. And it's just such a different experience from now.
Yes. No, I love listening to them. I especially like it because when I wake up, if there's not something to occupy my mind will find something to occupy itself. And that's often something that will keep me awake. And so having an audiobook on when I wake up just lets me go, oh yeah, Wheel of Time, right back to sleep, you know?
And if I don't fall back asleep, oh no, I'm listening to my favorite books or listening to
Right, yeah.
right, like because there's been times where it's like, okay, that's a chapter, but whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, then I'm reading, right, which is not a bad thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it's great. Plus, my sleep aid is also blackout eye mask, which has been amazing. It's amazing. I live in a dark place, but man, blackout glasses or blackout masks still improves my sleep quality.
You've sold me on one of those, and I keep meaning to buy it, and I have not. So keep bringing it up until I buy myself one, because
yeah, it's awesome. The only struggle I'm having is with the charging cable. It broke very quickly, and the fix I have for it means that the little control panel is not properly positioned like where it's supposed to be.
Got it.
Because you can take the electronics out because you have to wash it, right? So, but yeah, I can show you in person. I'm a little annoyed that the electronics were not so great, but I'm happy that they had a spare port for charging to go into that thing. So it was a simple enough little cable fix, but it's a pain in the ass and it should have been made better in the first place. But, oh well.
Welcome to Enshittification.
Yeah. So, I wanted to recommend the company because they were one that I didn't get advertised by. Because when I started looking them up, right, you get advertisements. And I sort of, I don't know if it's like a PDA thing or just like an anti-capitalism thing, but I try really hard not to buy the thing that gets advertised to me hardest. Like if someone wants to spend that much money advertising their product to me, I'm going to spite them and not buy it. Right. So I tried to like use advertisings to get an idea of like what is the price and design feature kind of spread amongst the big boys, and then I go try to find, a smaller boy to actually buy it from. And yeah, this company's fine, I guess, but the main electronic breaking like almost immediately is like, maybe try a different brand that isn't one of the big boys.
It tells me that the electronics are probably all made cheaply by the same company and then bought by these companies and repackaged and sold as their own sleep aid.
I mean, I'm assuming that, yeah, they're buying the electronics and then making the like mask because they were very proud of the mask. The website spent a lot of time talking about the construction of the mask. So I think that's what they made themselves.
Exactly.
And then
and
the electronics they installed were, yeah. And, I tried to buy not the cheapest ones out there, but apparently I need a different one. Well, I don't need a different one. I need to continue repairing the one that I have. But if I'm going to give out a recommendation, it would be to do your own research and roll the dice on your own. I don't have a strong recommendation.
Like, I have not invested in buying 10 different masks and trying them out over an extended period of time to recommend the best. I've tried out one and it's kind of been shitty.
No. It's a comfortable mask. It's fine. But the charging part breaking immediately is like, you're not going to get my word of mouth recommendation. Sorry. Like, buy better electronics. And then charge more for them, and then I might buy them or not because I was looking, whatever. It's fine. None of this is relevant to anything except convincing you that you need some kind of blackout assistance with your sleeping experience, which does not have to have headphones installed, right? The blackout part is not electronic. That part is very mechanical.
Yeah, I'm trying my sleep aids right now. I'm on a rotation. I was Dresden Files, Bobaverse, Dungeon Crawler Carl. Yeah, I think there's a couple more. A little bit of Andy Weir's thrown in there, a little of Alistair Reynolds. Yeah, just some of the books I've been reading lately. A lot more sci-fi in my mix than fantasy lately is one thing I've noticed. Very, very little fantasy is making it into my rotation. A lot more sci-fi has been falling in my lap. And depending on what you call it, there's also that overlap, right? Like Dungeon Crawler Carl, aliens come to Earth, but it's real fantasy, right? Because there's magic. But the magic is science-based.
Is there technology or a chosen one? Is there a chosen one? Because that's a distinguishing feature. You have taught me this.
He's not necessarily the chosen one. He could have been anybody. It's more of right place, right time.
Then that makes it sci-fi.
So it feels more sci-fi to me. Yeah.
I'm sure there's other distinguishing features, but I'm pretty sure that's the important one. Is it the technology and the accident of time and place, or is it that you were always destined to be this person and it's very cosmic?
I mean, but no one has feet that are as pretty as his, so that might have a lot to do with it, is the attractiveness of his feet.
Well, there it is then. I don't even know what to say to that.
For those of you who have not read it, you're very confused. For those of you who had are nodding along going, yeah, of course, that makes total sense.
I am getting convinced from many angles that I need to try these books, because you are by no means the only person who has been talking them up positively in my digital earshot recently.
Mm-hmm. And what I'll say is I thought they were good books for the first three, and then I thought they were great books for the last three. So that's sort of my baseline of like, because I feel like he does a good job in the first three. He sets up a lot of things, but it is, the first book definitely feels like a tutorial, right? This is how you play the game, and for me that was like middle-y entertaining. And also some of my favorite characters don't get introduced to the last three books, right? So it's like there's this sort of build-up of more and more characters that you like more and more, as well as, I feel like the plot gets more complicated. It's less focused on this is how you play the game and more focused on plot. And then the thing that I love about it, the audiobooks are really good, but two, I feel like it does something that I haven't seen since Wheel of Time, which is create a rich story for background characters by showing you what those characters are doing in little snippets and forcing you to reconstruct what's actually happening with their lives. It doesn't tell you what's going on with the background characters' lives, but it's full and rich enough that you can kind of reconstruct it.
So should we make that our first time read podcast?
I think so. And honestly, two reasons. One, because I do think you should read them. And two, because they are getting so popular so fast.
We could ride a popular wave. We could try to be with the cool kids.
I think we might actually have a chance of making it commercially successful. Unlike some of our other, there's a bunch of other books from the 80s I would love to go back and do. There's some of my favorite series. Something like The Broken Earth I thought was a great idea, but that's always going to have a very niche market. Something like Dungeon Crawler Carl is currently exploding and can be, I feel like, is one of those book series that is popular with the jocks, it's popular with the nerds, it's popular with
girls. Is it popular with girls?
It does seem to be. I think it is more popular with men, like, for sure. But I think, and this is one of those things where you'll have to tell me, because I'm a guy and I honestly haven't had a chance to talk to very many people about this except you, and you haven't read it, right?
That could be pretty fun.
But here's what I'll say is I know at least two people at work who've read it already, and they're readers, but still, like, it's that level of popularity where it's impacted. They haven't read a lot of the other series we're talking about. So, okay. So Athlon's saying all the women in his book club love it. So,
all right. Well, I mean, the chat is proving my point that, like, so many people across all of Discord and even I think on other platforms are, like, talking about this book series. And I'm like, I'm starting to feel left out. And
I guess here's what I'll say is I was like, hey, Never, my wife, like, you should, I keep talking about the series. So she's like, should I listen to it? And because she's also been getting into audiobooks a lot more recently, mostly into the fairy smut. But I think that has then gotten her into the habit of reading audiobooks, and there was only so much of that to listen to. And now she's like, actually, I want to listen to an audiobook sometimes. And I'm like, well, here's Dungeon Crawler Carl. And she blew through the first book. And I can always tell that she likes it if she listens to it when I'm not around, right? Because we'll listen to books together and we'll get into them for a little bit. But if she doesn't listen to it when I'm not around, I'm like, oh, okay, you're not like that into it. You're just like humoring me. But if she starts being like, oh no, I listened to a bunch of chapters while you were at work, I'm like, all right, you're hooked. I got you. And Dungeon Crawler Carl got her.
Well, I am currently in the market for a new audiobook. So,
well, I mean, if you want to try a new reader podcast, we could talk about maybe recording another, like, doing an extra long recording session on Tuesdays and seeing if we want to put something together.
I'll give the audiobook a spin, and if I get a few chapters in and I like it enough, I like, the production and can kind of imagine myself podcasting it enough, then we can talk.
And I feel like we can do it in bigger chunks. Like, we don't have to do it by chapter necessarily.
Sure.
Especially in the beginning. I think later on we'd want to go chapter by chapter, but in the beginning I think there's enough.
Yeah, I'll give it a spin, and then if I like it enough to try, we can make some content, without really getting too committed to a project. And if that feels like it's a rhythm that we can maintain, then we can do the thing where we actually set up a podcast and we'll already have some recordings in the bag to get started with. I'm learning how to launch podcasts. Right. I'm learning.
and you and I at this point have launched so many podcasts, some together, some not together, that I feel like it should go very smoothly. Yeah. But it'll be really interesting to do the first time reader podcast. I mean, try not to spoil everything for you. That's going to be the hardest part for me.
Dynamic.
It'll be a very different dynamic because I'll have to go back and listen to the Wheel Weaves and the podcast and like how to do a first time reader podcast.
Oh yeah, you'll have to talk to Brett and Gus and like form a little support group. So yeah, I'm in the market for a new audiobook, so I think I'll give that a spin. And we will let you, dear listeners, know how that goes. But in the meantime, should we turn our attention to this podcast?
Oh, we're only an hour late for a super double long chapter. I don't see why we should get started. I have nowhere to be or anything to do besides this.
Yep. That's why we get paid the big bucks. The big bucks having fallen to below $700 a month for the first time in my history of being on the podcast. In Patreon. I noticed that threshold got passed. It's been on a slow, precipitous decline. This is not like anything surprising, but it's like, we crossed an arbitrary line that I'm assigning value to.
Well, we're coming to the end of the series, right? Like, and I think you and I have both, I don't know. I think that there's a certain drop off where people are like, okay, they've gotten through the Jordan stuff.
Yeah, that's certainly how I feel about it. We're just on mop up now.
So there's a lot of reasons why we're talking about like, hey, maybe we should try something different, right? Like we're at this point where it's like the money's dropping off. I'm not sure the listenership hasn't really dropped that much.
A very small amount, but that might also just be a migration of people over to the Patreon method. I have no way of seeing those numbers.
Right.
So
right.
But yeah, no, this thing is running its course, right? Winding down on every level makes sense.
Exactly.
Like we still have a year and a half to go, but like it is very much near the end compared to
the beginning, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. When you're on 13 out of 14 books, you're closer to the end than the beginning, for sure. So yeah, I think I think trying something new like Dungeon Crawler Carl, which is on this exploding pathway through the fandom, I think it's a good time to maybe take advantage of that. I think we have the chops to launch something pretty quick and get on top of it. And it's on book 7. There's 3 books left. It's one of those things where I think it could be finished by the time we get caught up.
Chapter 16, Shanna'har. The symbol being the blacksmith puzzle. Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Please rate and review us on your podcast app and consider supporting us on Patreon for ad-free episodes. What Spoilers is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.